ठिक के हो त्यो
तँलाई चाहिँ खानुसँग मतलब छ कि शेपसँग
दुईटै
I have far better things to do, than make pretty looking momo.
तैँले इङ्ग्लिस पढ्काउनु बित्तिकै सबै चाहिँ राइट हुँदैन ल
Hello, if you've been watching Keep Talking, you know that independent cinema has a special place here. And you also know that we've had a spate of such good films to look at. Filmmakers, talented filmmakers from across the country have given us much entertainment and much food for thought. I'm delighted to say that Shape of Momo is a new film from Sikkim that joins this list of fabulous independent cinema that India is making. And the co-writer and director Tribeny Rai is joining me now on this conversation. Tribeny, thank you for making time for Keep Talking.
Thank you so much, Anuradha, for having me. I think it's a great platform to, reach out to audiences who would actually love our film.
You know, Asian Paints used to run a campaign which would go Mera Wala Pink, Mera Wala Blue, Mera Wala Cream, because of this customer, the customer saying that particular shade. Every time I see a film like Shape of Momo, I'm like, Mera Wala Cinema. This is the cinema, this is the kind of storytelling that really is what I'm looking for. I feel it's made for me sometimes. And what a sparkling debut. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm just so happy that the film has resonated so deeply with you. I'm just so excited.
So you're back in Sikkim. This is now a bit of a breather after the festival circuit and then all the work that goes into releasing a film theatrically, which is what Shape of Momo has had. What does it feel like now? And what do you, when you look back at this journey of, film school, making your first film, having this reception, seeing it in the theater, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
I think for me, the whole process has been very fulfilling, at the same time exhausting, like you said, especially with indie films like this, where you're writing, you're directing, but also you are one of the producers. So you're always running around. Even now, though we finished the Metro Cities press tour, I'm back in Sikkim and I'm trying to reach out to as many college students or women from the villages, so that, because it's the story about my place and my people, and I think it is very important for them to watch it. I think it's very fulfilling but exhausting. But I'm so happy that I was able to tell the story I deeply wanted to tell in a way that I wanted to tell. In terms of craft, in terms of narrative, we made no compromise. So I think I'm very grateful also. When I look back, I never envisioned, the film would, I knew that it would find resonance, because while writing, we have worked so hard. And, when a lot of like-minded people come together and struggle for something just for the pure love of it, to tell a good story, to make a good film, I think it pays off. So I knew somewhere it would pay off, but we didn't know, we would come so long. So it's a long way that we have come, especially for a Nepali film. I think it's a first Nepali film from the country that has been released in a scale that it has been, and to find voices like Zoya, Rima, Payal, and Rana championing it all the way, So I'm very, very grateful. Nothing to complain. A bit exhausted, but taking it all in and trying to soak the moment. Yeah.
So the accomplishment, in a sense, is really to get this film made, isn't it? And to be able to, as you said, to make it exactly pretty much the way you want it to, not having to compromise in any way.
Yeah, I think it is so important, especially for a person coming from Sikkim who speaks in Nepali, where you don't see a lot of representation. And even if you speak about the whole region, Northeast, we always keep complaining about how we are either underrepresented or misrepresented in the mainstream films. So I think when you have an agency, when you have an access, where an individual like me has studied in a film school, I think it becomes my responsibility then to come back and tell our story where we are our own heroes and in our own way. I think that has been the most fulfilling process and experience for all of us involved. Though some of them are from Bombay, from Delhi, the crew members mostly from FTI and SRFTI, but I still feel like even they feel that satisfaction, of telling a story that deeply, deeply matters.
So, Tribeny, there is the author, the filmmaker, author, artist, and there's also, in a sense, the activist, the political person who feels, feels the lack of representation, feels that there are larger themes that you have explored and that you want to explore in this film. But before we explore these themes further with you in this conversation, I'd like you to tell people who haven't seen Shape of Momo, just like an elevator pitch of what this film is about.
So whenever I used to travel to film festivals and they would ask me to introduce the film, I would tell them that this film is about a woman like me who's fighting the expectations of the society and that of her own. So I think, in today's time, especially where a lot of people like me from smaller towns move to bigger cities and come back home with their idea of home, and it is no longer there. I think, and especially when people say Shape of Momo is just about women, I think it is more than that, because it can't be, we can't exist in isolation. We are, I am Tribeny Rai, I'm a woman, but I'm also from Northeast, I'm a filmmaker. So a lot of things intersects, and that complexity is exactly what Shape of Momo is, So yeah.
I find it interesting that you say that a lot of the people talking about this film, especially people who've seen it, are remarking about the fact that it's a story of a woman, it's a story about women, it's a story about being a woman in India, in the northeast of India, in Sikkim specifically. But it is also about home, migration, fitting in, not fitting in, changing, right? Different
Class,
ways.
privilege, yes, yes, yes.
I mean, there are so many themes that you explore. Let's start with the theme that sticks, that you see first, that you encounter most prominently and directly, and that is about being a woman in India today. And your main character, Bishnu. There's something about her. You said she is someone like you. She could have been someone like me several years ago when I was younger, I feel, where you feel, there is this playing down of your femininity, of your sexuality. You have this slightly androgynous, way of dressing, this way of carrying yourself where you're not like this. You just
Yes.
own the space like men do. Tell us a little bit about this character and her journey from Delhi, where she's working. She worked in advertising, I'm guessing, and then she
Yes.
comes back home. What is it that she comes looking for? And what is it that, that perhaps she realizes that she misses from her experience in the big city?
So I think this is a deeply personal take on how films are usually made about homecoming, how they picture mountain and mountain people as simpletons and exotic creatures. Like most of my friends would tell me, you are one of the luckiest where you get to live in the mountain and write your own scripts. But I think what is happening back home, only I know the true picture. So for a woman like Vishnu, to come back to home, like when I went to SRFTI and came back home in Kolkata, I felt like the world is waiting for me. I felt like I'm going to change my village, where I'm like, okay, my mother is not doing yoga, but older women in the cities are doing yoga. So let me make her do yoga. So you come with this you come from the place of awareness where you are more informed than the rest of the villagers, and you feel like you will bring about a
Yeah.
change. But
Yeah.
over time, I realized that places like Sikkim, changes do not happen overnight. There is only either a gentle shift or very gentle shift in I think in the lives of the people, and this is exactly what I think our film is also doing. Like how the people from my community and my state are telling, it's such an important film. This is going to change the mindset of the people, but I know it is not going to change overnight. It will take many more films like Shape of Momo to bring about that change. So that is what, yes.
So Tribeni, Bishnu and the way she deals with being back home and the way she wants to help her mother run her home and run the land that they own, etc. And the mother's approach are very different. By the end of the film, do you feel that neither approach is perfect, maybe? Because, in this encounter, I hope I'm not giving away too many things, but, to explore the themes, I have to come to some of the plot points. This encounter that Bishnu has with their tenants, right? The people who are minding their
Living in.
orange orchards, yeah, and the way she's dealing with them, she's not really fair to them, is she? So I'm
Yes.
saying that the way the mother deals with life over there and Bishnu's way, neither are perfect.
Yes.
But
Yes.
do you feel there is something that can emerge from this tension, or do you think these two ways can't really meet?
So this also comes from my own experience of trying to negotiate with a patriarchal society, where my mother is how the mother in the film trying to negotiate, trying to be nicer version of a woman who will then be accepted into the society and then will be allowed to do things that she wants. And one is my way, where I'm this angry young woman and I will just have it my way. So people keep telling me, so are you who are you really? Are you that mother, or are you Vishnu, or what do you think is the right way? I feel even after making this film, I really don't know. This is something I don't think one can pinpoint and say, this is the right way or that is the right way, because patriarchy is so deeply ingrained. To navigate it as women, I think is very difficult, and it's very one has to be smart, but at the same time one has to be empathetic, one has to be so many things to navigate in the right way. And what is the right way, we really never know. For my mom, that is the right way, because she has been brought up in such a conventional environment, where she knows what she thinks is the right way is trying to please everybody, trying to make it all right. So this is something I think I am still trying to negotiate living back home. Sometimes I think I'm my mother, and sometimes I feel like I'm Vishnu. Where sometimes if I shout, things get done. Sometimes I have to be extra nice to get things done. So this is something I'm still trying to understand and explore.
Also, what is interesting in this interaction that Bishnu has with this the young boy from that family of their orchard tenants, the managers of their tenant of the orchards, was there was a moment, in fact I got quite emotional at that point, which perhaps is not a conventional point, where she first sees this boy and he sees the way she's dealing with his father, and he just looks at her, and I feel they're kind of mirror images of each other.
Yes,
At that
absolutely.
point I feel they're mirror images of each other.
Yes, 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 yes. I think so, because though
Even
they no, please go ahead.
No, at that point I feel they're mirror images of each other. Yet I also see that if Vishnu was a man and she had a
You got
penis
it.
and testicles, he would have dealt with her very differently. And yet I feel they're mirror images. So this is a contradictory thing that I'm feeling and sensing here.
Absolutely. I think you have been the most observant, because people keep having a lot of sympathy for the tenant's boy. Whenever the film has traveled, they're like, but the way Vishnu is dealing with that boy is so unfair. But I also try to make them explain, had Gyan, the love interest, been in Vishnu's place, had Vishnu been the MLA's son, would that boy ever challenge her? Because I have
Yeah.
seen discrimination between men and women, especially in women's context, surpasses class also. You will never see a lower class man usually confronting an upper class man, but from a lower class man will very easily confront an upper class woman, these things these things ideally should not exist, but just for women it exists. So, which is a very sad thing. I also feel like when you're saying, of course, he's trying to safeguard his father's interest, and she's trying to safeguard her mother's interest, and they are both in their ways correct, But I also feel if you watch the film, how whenever Vishnu gets angry, her mother tries to um, so yeah, she's like, why are you getting angry, what will people think? And if you see, whenever the tenant's boy, he gets angry, his mother will find an excuse to justify it. He's like, oh, he has been working all day long, oh, he has been doing this. So I think these are very important aspects that exist in our society, and we wanted to bring it out as subtly as we could. Also, through this anger, we were also trying to be critical of Vishnu's privilege, where we are not just trying to be critical of the society, but we are saying, hey, our hero is also not perfect. Every other chance she gets to safeguard her family, even if it means that she will go against people from lower class, or a woman who is socially not in the same level as her, she will. So we were just trying to bring the picture as honestly as we could.
Yeah, so you're constantly sort of bringing to light the power dynamic, right? Whether it's gender or class or insider, outsider, because you have those migrants
Yes,
who
yes.
are there, construction workers or some workers, right? But then the insecurity that the women feel because there are these bunch of men living so close. So it's really interesting, the constant awareness that you create about power dynamics, where sometimes you are on one side, sometimes you're on the other side. And I think that is perhaps the most remarkable part of your craft of Shape of Momo, the way you've written it. Tell me a little bit, because you've co-written it with somebody called Kishlay, and
Yes.
I've not heard him, but there's an important partnership at work here. Tell me how that was approached. Let's talk a little bit about the craft before we go back to the theme.
So Kisley is also a writer-director who came on board as the co-writer, co-editor, and one of the producers for the film. He's made this film called Just Like That. It's called Aise Hi. It was also in Busan. So his film was about this old lady who discovers life after her husband passes away. And I felt like I've never seen an individual, especially a man, write so sensitively and so sensibly, about women. So I thought I had to partner with him. So when he came on board, so this script was more or less like a complaint letter about how this society is not functioning for a modern woman like me. I was like, I am such a perfect person, and now you are supposed to function like me, and I think when he came on board, we decided, like I told you, that we will be critical of the society, but we will also be critical of the protagonist, because it becomes really important, especially when you're talking about representation, to represent women as they are, as complex individuals. And I think one of the challenges for us was that our hero was not your perfect hero whom you would champion. She was not this epitome of sacrifice or epitome of something. She is a flawed individual like the rest of us. So that was very important for us. And I will tell you one instance where he had come to Sikkim to write the script with me. And we had this ritual where we would go out for a run in the evening, because that was the only time where we were interacting with my village. So he saw me talking to someone in the village, a child from the village, and he said, you have this certain tone when you talk to children from your village. And I was like, no, I talk to everyone in the same way. He said, no, it comes from a place of superiority. And I think that moment really changed my perspective, where I started looking at myself with a lot of awareness. And I think that and also he also saw me interacting with my environment, and we picked up everything we could and tried to reflect it in the script.
Oh my God, this sounds, see, this is, you go to SRFTI, FTII, this is what happens, na? There's so much going on in your minds as a filmmaker. But, I noticed also that you did not use music, like this music soundtrack, or it was only, I think, when Juno, the sister, is looking at these girls play basketball that I hear a background score, background music. Was that an intentional choice not to have a background score? Because in a way, I really liked that. I felt like I was hearing and feeling the ambience much more.
Yes, I think the soundscape from the mountains has been so important for me, and I really wanted to create emotional graph through that. For instance, the cuckoo sound, that every time she does something, she feels something guilty about something. It's like almost the subconscious saying, "What did you do?" Said the cuckoo, "I know it too." And the constant sound of the what do you call that, the wood eating insect, all those things I wanted. And I think if music were to be scoring, I mean, if we had a background score, I think all these little details would go away. And I feel like I always have admired filmmakers who use sound in a very organic way and make it part of the narrative, make it part of the script. And we had planned it while writing. We had those factors in. So and with films, I think especially with Nepali films, there have always been dance and songs. So people here are like, they were a bit shocked. They were like, this film is a little too real life-like. So it was a bit different for them, but also it truly comes from my training in the film school, where sound has been such an integral part, where I don't want the music to dictate the emotions of the people.
SRFTI, the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, named after one of India's best known filmmakers,
Yes.
a filmmaker who was, at the start of the parallel cinema movement, if you want to call it that. When you look at the independent cinema, the films that are part of independent cinema today, and when you look at that era and the filmmakers, then whether it was Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, Ritik Ghatak, the Trinity from Bengal, Shyam Benegal, Govind Nehlani, and I'm going down generations, Ketan Mehta. So when you look at that, that lot of filmmakers and what was happening then, and you look at the independent cinema that's coming out of India now, is there a difference? Is it the same thing? Is this 21st century's parallel cinema in India? How are you seeing these two, as a student of cinema, as somebody who's studied not just filmmaking, but also the history of cinema? How do you locate independent cinema vis-a-vis parallel cinema of that time?
I think when masters like them were making the films, those were popular films. Those were the films that were being released in the theaters. Like I was having conversation with somebody the other day, and they were saying, but his films used to get released, and people used to watch it in Bengal. So I think that is the kind of difference that we have today, where cinema has evolved in such a rapid pace, where I think engagement and entertainment not necessarily go hand in hand, where entertainment maybe has taken a little more space than engagement. So I think, but again, India is so diverse that everybody watches every kind of films. Like I watch Satyajit Ray on good days, and I watch Netflix on bad days. But I think the bad days are just getting more and more. So I think there are audiences who want to watch this film, but again, with OTT, people's expectations are generally, after COVID, I think theaters aren't doing that well in India. Yeah, so when an indie film like this comes out, back home, people are either waiting for it to come to OTT or YouTube, because that is that is the space for independent films. But I think again, where indie studios like Spirit Media come into play, where they have released All We Imagine as Light, or let's say Sabar Bonda, I think they're building audiences they're building audiences who watch this kind of films, and are willing to watch it in theaters. So I think change is happening. It is slow, but it is consistent. For example, Rima Das's Village Rockstar was there in the theater, and then Boom went to theater, and now Shape of Momo. So I think if it happens, keeps happening consistently, I think it will be a healthy industry where we can coexist and we'll have space for everyone. But again, those were really good days. I don't think we are making Patar Panchali, we are making Shape of Momo, but those were really good days for us.
There are three generations of women we meet in the family in Shape of Momo, and making momos and eating momos become something symbolic, right? In the Shape of Momo, you want to just tell people a little bit about that?
I think the word Momo brings me back home. I mean, it's so close to heart, especially to Himalayan culture, where we have it in funeral, we have it in birthdays, we have it in weddings, everywhere. Momo is such an integral part, and like you saw in the film, it takes a lot of family members to make. The making process is very elaborate, so it becomes a family time also. But at the same time, I think this constant pressure of the society to define women in a certain shape, put them in a certain box, really troubles me, and that is what we wanted to say with the title simply. But at the same time, I think a lot of people have been interpreting it in such different ways, which is great. I think for an artist, you just make an art and people interpret it in different ways. Like for instance, people said Momo looks so simple from the inside, but there's so much complexity with the masala. So they've told us about this film. But I really feel like it instantly connects with my people first. And again, Momo is sometimes used as racial slur. So I just wanted to redefine this whole conversation. Again, it's also about migration, where people from my place then go to Delhi or Bombay, sell Momo, make their living. So yeah.
Oh, and also, I think for a lot of people who are not from the Northeast, the Momo is something. I mean, it may have be you just mentioned it could be misused, as a racial slur, but it is also your first taste of a certain cuisine, right? Which is much more than that. But it is the first bite of the cuisine from the Northeast, right? In a way, or some parts of the Northeast.
No, I think with Momo, one of the most interesting thing has been, the stereotypical thing where a woman, no matter what her position is in the society, if she's not good in the kitchen, she's not good enough. So that sort of has found resonance with common people, where they're like, paratha gol nahi banaogi to nahi hoga. And in Korea, they have a similar dish like Momo, and if a pregnant lady folds it perfectly, she's going to have a baby son. So all of that, I think it brings about so many layers and so many narratives that I'm so grateful that we chose this title.
I feel I'm a woman like Bishnu. You've said you're a woman like Bishnu. There are many women who will identify with Bishnu. For women like us, for women like Bishnu, do you think romantic love is difficult, is more challenging than for other kind of women? Or is it something that that I'm reading too much into when I'm seeing Shape of Momo?
Personally, I just feel like it takes a partner who thinks you are an equal, who treats you as an equal. It just takes that. I think it's a very simple calculation where you need to have a man who thinks, you are a woman, we are equal, and just especially, I think in the film where people are like, the guy is so nice, why is Vishnu leaving her? But I think patriarchy does not come as an evil force where the guy is very bad. It reflects in small ordinary things where he does not take the plate from the table or says he doesn't like her smoking. So in all these things, and I think there are people who are like I don't think it is difficult in today's world. Maybe in a village like mine, it is difficult to find a person who actually thinks you are an equal, because we have been brought up in such a conventional place where man is he's the man of the house. Father becomes the man of the house. But I think in today's time, especially, I think there are men who are very empathetic in the sense that I think people always say, women. Feminists are man haters and all of this, but I truly believe that we can only be equal when all of us come together and decide we are equal. I can't be saying, okay, I am more equal than you. I think it has taken a lot of good men also who have really participated and helped us and enabled us to get to this place. So I don't think there is dearth of good men. I think Vishnu will find her own. Yeah.
That's good to know. I must say that it's so interesting. We've discussed so many complex themes, and at the end of it, I want to know if Vishnu will find romantic love. Just look at look at how our mind works, right? Does Vishnu find romantic love? That's my biggest thought after all these complexities that I have discussed with you.
No, but
But
I think no, it is. I think it is very important to, if you're a strong, independent woman, it is, I think, equally important to have a partner who truly respects and understands you. I think world out there is very complex and very difficult. And to navigate that, if you have a partner who thinks you are an equal, like Sone pe Suhaga.
Let me try and close this conversation by asking you about the film industry, or the fledgling film industry, or the lack of a film industry in your state of Sikkim, in Manipur, for all kinds of reasons, very different political reasons. There is such trauma happening there, but Northeast is getting represented in cinema. Of course, there are just 3 or 4 filmmakers who we are referring to now, but is there something happening that is beyond your work, or do you see yourself, Lakshmi Priya, all of y'all, as sort of the pioneers, especially where women filmmakers are concerned?
We are so diverse that every state has its own history. As far as Sikkim is concerned, our industry
Yep.
is at very nascent stage. And I am definitely one of the first woman filmmakers who's made a feature film. So I think it is changing. This narrative is also changing because of places like film school. So when from people from my region do not have access to, say, Hindi film industry, where we can easily go and intern and learn about the craft. But it is, I think, spaces like film school where you can learn this very expensive profession, training with subsidized rate, and learn about cinema, because all I watched while growing up was Bollywood. And when I went to film school, it opened a new window where I was introduced to world cinema. So I'm really very grateful, and I understand that each filmmaker has its own take on film school, where they're like, you don't have to go to film school. I understand that. But would I be making Shape of Momo had I not gone to SRFTI? Definitely not. Would I be the person and the filmmaker I am without SRFTI? I don't think so. It gave me access to a world I would never, because my family, they don't understand the kind of cinema I watch or I like to watch. They also grew up watching Bollywood films. My mother is sucker for South Indian films. She really likes South Indian films. So for me to have a different perspective about cinema and this understanding, I could only develop it in a place like SRFTI. So I think a whole lot of filmmakers who have passed out from SRFTI and FTI now in different regions of Northeast are making films. For example, Dominic Sangma's Rapture. You have Maharishi, whose film Kok also was in Busan. The whole new generation is coming, which is really exciting and such an important time to be making film, especially as women. When you have filmmakers like Rima Das to look up to, she's like one man army. She does everything, and for especially LP also, and the kind of support they lend to fresh voices like me. They went out of their way to promote that the film is coming to theater, and that really touched me, where you feel like, oh, there is a community of film lovers who deeply care about cinema from India, and especially from a region where there's not industry is not so thriving as Bollywood or South Indian industry.
Well, all I can say, Tribeny, is that more power to you, and more power to all the filmmakers you've mentioned, and so many more who we hope will, come out with the stories. Because, like I said at the start, and to use an ad campaign line, Mera Wala Cinema, this is my kind of cinema. I am so glad it's getting made despite such overwhelming challenges, and I would love for everybody to go see it at the theater. And for some reason, if you can't, I really hope to see this movie on a streaming platform soon. So good luck, Tribeny, and more
Thank
power
you.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and giving space to indie films like ours. I think it really means a lot, and especially I think this Asian paint wala, I think it's going to stick to me. Mera wala cinema. Thank you. Thank you so much.